This is the most stupid movie I've seen. This is about Richie. He is the richest kid in the world. He is so rich that he has a private amusement park and a McDonald's at his home. His parents, Richard and Regina, love to spend time with their son, especially Richard despite being busy. Richie has a butler named Herbert Cadbury, who has been taking care of him ever since he left the cradle. Richie developed a keen interest in baseball when he was a child, and continued with the sport as he grew up, playing often with his father. Richie also played baseball with the staff of the house, but because he was growing up, he had less and less time to dedicate to this sport. Being the son of a billionaire is not easy. Richie often has to accompany his father in his endeavors. Richard is a man of heart. He bought United Tools. This company was on the verge of shutting down, but by Richard's act, hundreds of people were saved from unemployment. Because Richard is a busy man, he sends Richie in his place to the inauguration ceremony. While he was standing amidst the ceremony, the other children were amazed looking at the perks of being the richest child in the world. Richie notices them playing baseball and moves forward in hopes of befriending them, but his bodyguard Ferguson stops him midway. His butler, Herbert, scolds Ferguson for being harsh with Richie and asks the boy to go back to the car.
This area is not secure, sir. Please return to the helicopter immediately.
You have a very busy afternoon, sir. We must be on our way. Ferguson, but grab him like that again, and you will need protection.
Later, Richie returns home and is greeted by his dog, Dollar. He is delighted to see his dad home, who was on a week-long business trip. In the meantime, his mother, Regina, had ordered to have the rich family's faces carved on the mountains situated outside of their mansion. But their conversation is interrupted when Herbert tells Richard that the president of the US has called, and Richard has to take it. Disappointed, Richie has to go to Professor Keenbean for his class. And there, the professor tells him about the newest invention he's been working on. It's a subatomic molecular reorganizer that uses waste and recombines its molecules to form new products like a bowling ball. Richie asks Professor Keenbean about any other invention that he's working on. He shows him the strongest adhesive in the world, and then a bulletproof spray that avoids any potential harm to the wearer after spraying it on their clothes. Keenbean also shows him his RoboBee, which can pollinate a field faster than thousands of bees. It's powered by a remote control that Richie uses to annoy butler Cadbury. Thinking of it as any other regular bee, Herbert damages it with a newspaper roll. Keenbean is devastated at the loss and runs after Richie. The artist hired to carve the rich family's faces on the mountain is using laser to do the task when Regina calls her to give new instructions. She asks her to reduce the size of Richard's cheeks. During dinner, the rich family is greeted by an unwanted visitor, the greedy CFO of Rich Industries, Lawrence Van Doe. Since the beginning of the company, Richard has never fired an employee and is very proud of that. But Lawrence in particular is definitely not one of his favorites. Even Regina isn't fond of his presence, but they have to entertain him since he's an integral part of the company. During dinner, Lawrence advises Richard against the factory he has recently bought, United Tools. He suggests that the factory wouldn't bring them any profit. Soon enough, Richard agrees not to keep the factory and decides to give it to the employees to run for free. Just then, Professor Keenbean comes and tells Richard that he has succeeded in making the device he had been working on for all these months.
May I present the Smell Master?
And it detects the smell of anything converting it into sound. Richie is excited about the new device.
What de veau? Calf's liver.
While Richard and Regina escort their guest out of the house. Lawrence suggests they tighten their security, but Richard tells him that everything of precious value is locked away in their vault, which leaves Lawrence intrigued. And he leaves. The next day, Richie gets ready for his school, and using Dadlink, yet another invention of Professor Keenbean, he locates his father, who was present in the White House. Richard receives a call from Richie, which interrupts his meeting with the president. He picks up the call thinking it's something important, but it's just Richie showing off his first pimple.
Well, Dad, I'm getting a zit.
After that, Richie goes to his school. and is annoyed by the fact that all of his classmates are interested in multiplying their money and not enjoying their lives. During their fencing class, Richie invites two of his closest friends to his house, but they deny, saying they'd be busy taking care of their family business. At the same time, a stuck-up boy from his class is seen scolding the waiter for bringing him a cappuccino when he wants coffee. In order to teach him a lesson, Richie pokes him, causing the drink in his hand to spill on him.
This is a cappuccino!
On his way back home, Richie receives the good news that he can enjoy an activity of his choice. Excited, Richie asks the driver to take him to United Tools to play baseball with the children there. Despite Herbert's reluctance, he ends up going there. At first, the children refuse to play with him.
Not!
But later, when he proposes a bet that he can hit the ball higher than they can, they agree. At first, Richie barely manages himself. But on the next try, he hits the ball high and Herbert does his mini celebration.
Yes!
He invites the children to his house, but Gloria, one of the local children, suggests giving him the money since he won the bet. Disheartened, Richie refuses to accept the prize and goes back to the car. Later, the Rich family is planning to visit the Queen of England and loads their jet with a plethora of gifts that they intend to give to the Queen. Regina asks about the smell master that is supposed to be a gift to the Queen, and Richard suggests that it would be a good idea. Regina also notices that Richie has been very silent and interrogates Herbert about it. The butler then suggests that Richie stays here and spends time with friends rather than going on the trip. Regina understands and complies right away.
Cadbury, you're a genius. I'll go tell Richie.
In the meantime, Ferguson places a mysterious red gift box on the stack of gifts and is satisfied. He believes that all the members of Rich family are present in the aircraft. At Herbert's invitation, Gloria and the other kids reach the mansion and are aghast by the majestic building. They are soon greeted by Richie, the boy they had refused to play with a few days ago. Richie is delighted to have them at his place and decides to take them to the McDonald's that is present inside the mansion. After they eat, Richie takes them to his private amusement park where they play to their heart's content. Then they go for karting as Herbert shows the mansion to Diane, Gloria's mother. While the pair is busy in their conversation, they almost get run over by the children, but Herbert pulls Diane just in time, causing them to have a little moment there.
Rising fire sign, Herbert?
Their fun play doesn't stop, and lastly, they take the roller coaster ride. Richie got as a Christmas present last year. On the other hand, Regina and Richard are flying the plane, but can't seem to find the place to land. Richard asks his co-pilot Regina to take over as he excuses himself for coffee. Instead, he takes Smellmaster and runs it over the red gift box placed sneakily by Ferguson.
Try nitro toluene.
They discover that it has a bomb inside it. The couple panics, and Richard attempts to throw it out of the window, but it blasts as it collides with the blade of the plane. Lawrence is very content with the whole situation. He celebrates with a bottle of champagne in Richard's office. As soon as his friends leave, Richie receives the sad news that his parents' plane has disappeared. He searches in Dadlink, but is unable to find them. A sea search is initiated to find the Rich couple, as Richie becomes restless. Meanwhile, Ferguson informs Lawrence that there has been a slight problem in their plan, and that Richie was not on the plane, so he would become the official heir to the company. Annoyed, Lawrence says that he will get rid of the boy, just like he got rid of his parents. Richard and Regina manage to survive on a boat as Richard tries to fix the device to contact Richie. Regina realizes that the only person capable of doing something like this is Lawrence and scolds Richard for not firing him years ago. Richard replies that he's never done that and doesn't intend to, but currently the couple is more worried about their son.
Oh, Richard, wake up and smell the seaweed.
The first decision that Lawrence took in the absence of Richard was closing United Tools.
First order of business, United Tool.
Gloria, sad that her mother's job is gone, calls Richie and informs him about everything that is going on. Hearing all of this, Richie decides to take up his father's position and goes to the office to exercise his rights and responsibilities as the heir. He tells Lawrence that he is in charge of the factory and reopens it, preventing Lawrence from firing any employees. A few days later, Richie's friends visit his office to thank him for saving their parents' jobs but aren't allowed to. One of the kids, while trying to get gums, ends up damaging the machine and causing a stir. Taking advantage of this, the kids enter Richie's office, who is very happy to see them. Eventually, Richie gets the support of the most important position holders in the company, and this doesn't sit right with Lawrence. He commands Ferguson to carry out the plan, this time without any mistakes. Just a few hours later, some police officers come to the conference with an arrest warrant against Herbert. He is accused of placing a bomb on Richard's plane. Taking advantage of the situation, Lawrence files a case in court to take custody of Richie, which belonged to Herbert prior to this. He succeeds, and in doing so, he fires all the employees of the Rich mansion on the grounds that Herbert might have had connections in there. He infiltrates the mansion with new employees and installs cameras everywhere, even in Richie's room, which makes him feel like a prisoner in his very own home. Lawrence confronts Ferguson regarding the Rich family's vault, but he tells him that he has never heard of any such vault before. In his laboratory, Professor Keenbeans is listening to their conversation through a device he had designed before, and is shocked to find out the truth. He also overhears the plan of Ferguson to get rid of Herbert while he is in prison, and his idea of showing as a butler taking his own life out of guilt. Keenbean immediately tells everything to Richie, and they both, together, plan to get Herbert out of the jail. Keenbean shows him the acid he had invented that could melt the prison bars, and to carry out the plan, Richie, for the first time, dresses up as a regular kid and asks to deliver some items to Herbert, who he claims to be his uncle. After checking the hygiene items and a note written in Latin inside it, the officer passes on the stuff to Herbert. When Herbert goes to the bathroom to wash up, he puts some toothpaste on his brush, which immediately melts it down. He then reads the note that says the paste has to be used to escape the prison. He is happy, but before he can do anything, a goon enters the bathroom and tries to strangle him. But the butler defeats his blows and escapes the prison in his clothes. He is tackled to a hug by Richie, who to him is barely recognizable. Richie shows him the headline in the newspaper that reads that the wreckage of the plane has been found but no signs of the body, which gives them hope. Richard is trying his best to fix the device, and finally succeeds after using Regina's earring in the place of a missing piece. Meanwhile, Richie uses Gloria's computer to connect with his dad's device. He locates his parents and is very close to getting their exact location, but Ferguson removes the modem which disconnects Richie's computer. So now, the boy needs to break into his house to connect the device and connect with his parents, who, by now, have been rescued by the helicopter they believe has been sent by their son. Richie, along with his friends, succeeds in infiltrating the house and freeing Keenbean. Amidst the chaos, Richie notices that his parents' location is showing to be inside the Rich manor. He is distraught to find his parents tied on the bed by Lawrence.
Mom, Dad!
His friends also get caught and are asked to be brought to the laboratory. Richard asks him why he's doing all of this, and Lawrence replies that he wants to know the location of the vault. Richard reveals it to be the carved mountain situated near the mansion. Lawrence orders Richard to take him there, and leaves Richie to Ferguson to make sure Richard doesn't trick him. On the other hand, Keenbean was collecting his best inventions in a bag when he realizes that Richie's friends are being imprisoned there. They are placed inside the subatomic molecular reorganizer, and to save them, Keenbean uses the world's strongest adhesive but gets stuck too. He then uses the Robobee to poke Ferguson, and he ends up stopping the machine. Richie, in the meantime, takes the bag of inventions and runs to the vault. The couple must sing a song to open the vault, and on doing that, the vault opens.
Ain't got a barrel of money, but we'll travel along.
Lawrence enters the place but doesn't find anything valuable there. Richard tells him that all these things are of great emotional value, which irks Lawrence. He asks him about his money, to which Richard replies that it is in the real estates and shares of his company.
In banks. Where else? And the stock market.
At the same time, Richie comes to the rescue, and Lawrence shoots a bullet towards him, but he doesn't get affected because he had used the bulletproof spray to protect himself. After a fistfight, the Rich family is struggling to survive on the statues on the mountain as Ferguson keeps shooting laser beams on the family. Herbert comes just in time, and after a bit of struggle, the family finally survives. A few months later, Richie is seen playing with his friend, while Lawrence and Ferguson are doing community service as a part of their punishment. Richard admires his son and calls him the richest child of the world, now that he has found real friends that money can't ever buy. Also, Herbert plucks some courage and kisses Diane, starting a new relationship.